Okay, so I guess it's time. We waited like for 5 minutes for others to join in and they will meet us halfway. We don't want to take much of you guys' time, so we're just going to get started. So Darlington, hi Darlington, you can come up now.
Sorry. Okay, guys. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Chef, good evening. Okay, so I'll just probably share my screen and we can probably kick off. And yeah, for the few persons who probably know me, just I think the recording would be available on YouTube, so they could probably access that. So let me get started sharing my screen first. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Wait. Sorry, Darlington. Dennis, please can you mute your mic?
Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yes. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I think I don't know if I shared your own screen, but I actually.
For me, it's my tilted uterus. But I don't know that it's painful for me because of that.
Abims. Oh my, sorry. Hello, Abims. Darlington, please can you mute some people? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to like go back and sorry about that. Okay, let me just stop sharing and mute everyone.
So everyone, I think everybody is muted now, so you can continue.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so everyone can see my screen, right?
Come on, you guys should respond.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So basically the plan we had for today, right? I think we released the scheme of work. That was few weeks before the class started, right? And this is week 2. So by week 2, we are supposed to have started getting our hands dirty, writing some Cairo and probably deploying stuff to StarkNet. So yeah, sure. The class is not going to be all theoretical. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy the class. So let's just get started, right? So I decided, okay, let's take a step back and look into Cairo once again, just for formality's sake, for persons who will probably be joining from this class, right? So the first speaker, that was my colleague Godspower, he did some stuff about StarkNet and he did a good job with introduction to StarkNet, layer 2s, rollups and stuffs. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about Cairo and we'll get started. So basically, we'll start with what's Cairo, right? So from what I have here, we see Cairo is the first Turing complete language for scripting provable programs for general computations. So I think that's a whole lot of big English. So let's try to break that down first. So basically, we know what a Turing complete language is, right? So Cairo is a Turing complete language, just similar to Solidity. And the stuff that makes Cairo so exciting, it's the fact that it gives you the opportunity to write provable programs. By provable programs, we mean that when we talked about the StarkNet ecosystem, that was as at last week, right? We talked about how StarkNet is a ZK rollup. We talked about what ZK is and how the whole idea of zero knowledge rollups is using zero knowledge proofs to scale the base chain, that's Ethereum, right? So the ability to batch transactions and to move them on chain and do stuff. So initially for you to actually do stuffs like that, because the whole idea behind the ZK rollup, right, you will need to be able to like prove every computation step. So unlike optimistic, where the computations are carried out and then we are optimistic that the computation was done correctly, but we still need fraud proofs to show that computations was done correctly. With zero knowledge proofs, you've you need to generate a proof for every computation step, right? So that's stuff that makes zero knowledge proofs fun. So I don't know if anybody has had experience with Secom or writing. Yeah, writing Secom, right? I think Secom is like the most popular language for, let's say, building circuits, right? You know how tough it is to write circuits and all those stuffs. But then you have, okay, there's a chart. Yeah, I'll go through the charts shortly. I don't think I can. I don't know why I can't do that with while I share the screen. So let's just continue, right? So Secom, I wrote Secom for I think a few months. That was between May to July. And while Secom is for, it has a lot of limitations, right? So just but then when we say Cairo is the first Turing complete language, Secom is not a Turing complete language. So but then Cairo is that, think of a high level language in which you can actually write, like you get the opportunity to write provable programs without basically understanding all the whole mathematical stuffs like that makes zero knowledge proof so complex. So I think before Cairo was invented, right, if you were going to like write programs, there are lobes, like for example on StarkNet, you need to generate like an algebraic intermediate representation for your logic. That's a set of polynomials that probably satisfies those set of computations. But with Cairo, you don't just need to understand all those very complex nonsense. You are just provided with the high level language, right? We might argue currently it's not so high level, but with Cairo 1.0, we'll definitely see a whole lot of updates. So then that's what Cairo is, right? A high level language. In simple terms, a high level language similar to Solidity that enables you to write provable programs. So basically it's a low level language under the hood. I don't know how many of us that was present for the Twitter space that was held I think last 2 weeks, right? As regards to the ZK Kakarot that we're currently building on StarkNet, right? So if you were present, I think Shapini shared a little story about how they came up with Cairo. And I think when Cairo was built, right, it was like a low-level assembly-like language, but it's definitely getting better as the day goes by. And with Cairo 1.0, we should definitely see a very more enjoyable Cairo. So now let's just proceed, right? So yeah, the advantage. Someone please mute your mic. Okay, so the advantage basically is that.
Hey, Darlington.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you close your Discord? It's repeatedly you're getting notifications, and so it's just kind of getting in the way.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me try that. Okay. Oh shit. Let me just close this guy here. And I think that should work. So let's go back here. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. So the very big advantage of Cairo, right? Like a lot of persons was asking why don't we go for EVM compatibility, right? To like just like most other rollups doing, right? But then Cairo enables you write very efficient codes, like you can write literally everything in Cairo language that can run on the Cairo machine. So now the first thing I need us to understand, right, is like the difference between a Cairo program versus a StarkNet contract. And we are going to be looking at the both, although we'll probably not be writing Cairo programs, but essentially they are same stuff, is the same Cairo, right? But the basic difference between both of them is that while Cairo programs are stateless, so it can be said to be a type of stateless contracts, right? So it means that while you write programs, you do not have access to storage and you cannot interact with other Cairo programs or even their launching. So think of programs like writing Cairo away from the virtual machine. So you do not have access to StarkNet virtual machine storage, and as those you can't also interact with other Cairo programs. So, but StarkNet contracts basically is literally the same Cairo you write, but this time around you're writing programs that run on StarkNet's virtual machine, right? So basically, because they run on the virtual machine, they have access to StarkNet's persistent states. You can actually write stuff to storage. You can read stuff from storage. StarkNet has a state you can actually modify and alter. And it also goes beyond that. You can actually write stuff that communicate with other contracts using an interface, right? And you can also seamlessly interact with the underlying L1. And I think this is one of the primary features that a good rollup should have, right? It should, layer 2 should be able to seamlessly interact with the layer 1, and StarkNet provides a means which you can do that using contracts, right? Like you can actually build a custom messaging bridge, which would be doing I think in week 6. So yeah, so that is the major difference between Cairo programs and StarkNet contracts. But for this series of tutorials, right, for this bootcamp, we are going to be focusing more on StarkNet contracts, but I'm going to literally be showing you where you can write Cairo programs. You can actually write Cairo programs on the Cairo Playground. Let me just open that. Okay, I need to exit. I'm supposed to exit the slideshow, something like that. Okay, yeah, sure. So can I hide this thing? This is interrupting me. Okay, I can't see it. So there's Cairo Playground. Yeah, so Cairo StarkNet builds, the team at StarkNet builds a little playground just similar to what you do with Remix, right, on Ethereum. So this is a place where you can actually play around and learn Cairo, but these are Cairo programs because they are not deployed on StarkNet's virtual machine, but basically it's the same Cairo you're writing just with the little alterations. So you can write stuff, you can run them and do a whole lot of stuff, get the outputs and check the number of steps. You can play around with the whole shit. You can try debugging it, and it's actually a good place to actually play around when starting to learn Cairo. But we are not going to be writing Cairo programs. We're going to be focusing mainly on StarkNet contracts because basically you are looking to build stuff that's run on StarkNet's virtual machine. So we're just going to be diving right into that. So the first thing in our list, right, the first thing we're supposed to be looking at is the felt data type. The felt data type. So okay, before I do that, let me see if I can check the chat. Okay, I can now. So this second
Hello, can you guys hear
me?
His network is sort of off.
Hello, darling.
Quite difficult. Yeah, it's actually it's probably gets easier with time. It gets better with time. So
hi, darling.
let's
your network. You had like some network lag.
Okay,
so yeah. Can you like repeat what you said?
All right, but can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clear now.
All right. So what I was actually saying, I was actually going through the chats, right? And Abim said Secom still giving PTSD, and I said, yeah, Secom is definitely hard, and even till now I still have a lot of issues writing Secom. But then I think Secom is fun too, and it's one of the best ways to actually play around with zero knowledge proofs, right? Because with Cairo, you are not particularly writing zero knowledge proof contracts. You're writing should I say because basically it doesn't have the privacy property rights. Everything you write on StarkNet is still like public. So but with Secom you can actually create privacy applications because it enables you write stuff that gets verified on the browser rather than contracts. So let's just go straight into what we've been looking at. So yeah, over to felt, right? So I was saying something. I said felt is Cairo's native data type, and I think this is like one of the weirdest concepts. Okay, after recursions, like fields are one of the concepts that take a while to like adjust to. So if you come from a Solidity background, right, you are used to quite a number of various data types. We have units, we have strings, we have bows. In fact, it makes Solidity fun, right? We can do a whole lot of stuff. But then with Cairo, you just have a single data type, and that's called fields. So what is fields exactly like, right? So fields is short for field elements. So basically what field elements are is, they are unsigned integers with like up to 76 decimals, and they are usually in the range of 0 less than equals to x less than p, where p is the prime number. And trust me, you don't need to understand this to understand fields. I think there's a more technical explanation on StarkNet. I think there's a more technical explanation you can find on how, I think, how Cairo works or Hello Cairo, I can't remember, but you would actually find it in StarkNet's jokes. And let's just keep that. Okay, yeah, so field elements here. So you can find something very, if you are good with maths and you are looking to understand some very how it works behind the scenes. There's a very good explanation here, and there's also a video that I used earlier from Jordan, which was actually very good. I'll probably share the link later, right? So, but let's just dive into understanding what fields are. So, so like I said, understanding fields is actually very important because on Cairo, they are everything. We represent addresses in fields, we represent booleans in fields, we represent strings in fields, and fields are not something. It's not something like very strange. Though it's just that they are unlike unit 256, right? So when you hear unit 256, you understand what it is like. If you're very familiar with Solidity, you understand, you should know what unit 256 is. So unsigned integers, they are usually, their values range below, I think, between 0 is the minimum, to I think is that 2 raised power 255? I can't remember. So, but then the I think it's a 32 bytes number, right? But fields is actually different. So unlike in 256, that is actually 256 bits, fields are of 252 by 252 bits. I think I wrote that somewhere. Okay, yeah, I wrote that somewhere. We'll probably go into that later. So fields are actually 252 bits rather than 256. And they are a 31 byte number, and thus they make complex arithmetics a little more technical to achieve than with a unit 256 you've got. But thanks to like I said, thanks to StarkNet, the team at StarkNet, right, there are a lot of available library helpers that can help you with field manipulations. So working with fields, like I said, has been made easier thanks to available Cairo libraries. And most of all these stuff, we're just going through the theory. We are going to definitely do a whole lot of practical. So if you want to see what a field look like, still like a normal number, but I'll show you all those. Would definitely be writing a contract, just like the assignments. You're going to be deploying stuff to the testnet, and you're going to be playing around with it on a block explorer, StackScan particularly. So yeah, so the major libraries you'd actually need, that's the maths.cairo and the mathscompare.cairo. So these libraries actually help you with arithmetic operations such as signed and unsigned divisions, finding square roots, absolute values, and minimal. So they also help you with like comparisons, such like asserting whether something is non-negative or not. Let me just show you the library, right? So there is, if you go into StarkNet, there's this StarkNet Libs official repo. Let me see if I can try posting this in the chat, right? Okay, this is for the 256. So this repo contains a lot of libraries that you should actually get familiar with, because they would help you a lot. They would help you a lot when like when writing your Cairo contracts, the libraries will save you a whole lot. So if you go into the common, right, you will see the math.cairo. So in math.cairo, you have some specific functions, and please, you don't need to understand these codes, right? You just need to pick the functions. You just need to import the functions, and you can easily use them. Just probably what you need to note is their return values, because you might probably need that to further process some other operations. So there are different functions. I think this is maths.cairo, right? There's a function to help you assert that a felt value is not 0 and returns a 0 1 depending on whether the value is 0. There's one to check if two felts are equal. It's called assert not equal. There's one to check whether something is non-negative, right? You want to check if a felt value is non-negative. You can use the assert non-negative. There's to check less than or equal to. You can use this. There's less than, and a whole lot of them. You should actually go through this repo, right? When we are done, it would you'll find a whole lot of helpful libraries. I think there's something for signatures too. So just like you can't easily process if you are looking to like carry out the elliptic of the digital signature, you can actually do that here, right? So I'm actually looking for the maths compared. Yeah, so this is it, right? So there's the maths compared.cairo. How's this not open? Okay, video about field data type. Yeah, that video is actually very helpful. You should actually check it out if you are looking to understand the field data type from like the computer science perspective, like how bits and bytes work. That video, you should definitely go through it. And yeah, so there's this other one too, the math compare, which helps you perform some basic operations that return a Boolean value. Stuff like you want to check whether a value is not 0. There's a function for that. Is non-negative. There's a function for that. Is less than or equal to a whole lot of stuff. So you should definitely check this out. So let's just go back to our stuff, right? So there's something I forgot to mention, and this would give you a whole lot of issues. I couldn't add it into the slides because some slides have their limitations, but I think I actually wrote about it in okay, sorry. Let me find that deep dive into. Yeah, so with felts, you'd have a whole lot of issues with division, and I'm going to explain why. So like I said earlier, felts are unsigned integers with up to 76 decimals, right? So I also further explained that they are a 252-bit integer, unlike your in 256, which is a 256-bit integer. And as such, they give problems when we want to fit a UN 256 value into it. Though we can actually solve that by using a struct. There's a UN 256 is just up above the link to the video that God's Power sent. So okay, I actually sent that as a direct message to Manakin. That's an issue. Sorry about that. Let me. Okay. Yeah, so you can see the link now. Yeah. So according to, let's forget about that. So yeah, it's actually very important. So if you go to the official Cairo docs, right, you realize that like I said, it's the felt data type is an integer that ranges between 0 less than x less than p, where p is a prime number. And you note that all computations on felts are done modulo p. And this can pose some very serious issues, especially when you're carrying out stuff like division, as all divisive operations must satisfy the condition that x over y times y is equals to x. Now, this is a very simple arithmetic condition, and it's very easy to understand. All you need to understand is think about a simple multiplication and division operation, right? If, for example, if I say 6 divided by 2, right, that's an operation that returns a whole number 3. So basically, if 6 divided by 2 is equals to 3, then 6 divided by 2 times 3 should give you 6. Sorry, times 2. 6 divided by 2 times 2 should give you 6. Let me see if I can get one of all these drawing boards to just explain this. I've actually forgotten the name of that stuff, but some of this is not what I'm looking for. Does someone have a link to most of all those stuffs you can actually draw stuffs? I used to have one, but I don't remember the name.
Just use draw.io.
Yeah,
Draw.
draw.io.
Okay, draw.io.
Yes.
Is it supposed to redirect me? I'm going to app to diagrams on it.
Just
Yes.
hold up a bit.
Well, can't you use this whiteboard there? I don't know what is for draw.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Yeah.
I think that whiteboard was actually what I was looking for. But
No, it's down here. If you like, okay. Well, then it's now on Zoom. I think they integrated it into Zoom.
Is there a whiteboard on Zoom?
Yeah, it's down here on mine. I don't know if it's on yours. I updated mine, so probably that's why it's here. But then just use this one. If it's going
Yeah,
to
but
work.
this is, I don't know if it's my network or something, but they are all taking time. There's actually one I see.
Check the draw.io. Did that one open?
Okay, yeah, this has opened.
All right, this is okay.
Yeah. But where's my stuff? It's still taking some time to load. And this is telling me I should ensure JavaScript is enabled. Of course, it's enabled. Okay, guys, let me see if I can get my. It won't. No, my notepad won't be a good place, but I really wanted to demonstrate some stuff because not everybody is very much
Check out the
inclined. But this is
draw.io. Open it and just see if it's also load quickly. I feel
yeah,
it's network.
this is it. Yeah, this is it, and it's not loading. Okay, this guy is up now.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, so the operation we are seeing now is let's assume that's x, right? Let's assume x is equal to shit. I am very bad at this. Let's assume x is equals to 2, right? Sorry. Okay, let's assume x is equals to 2 and y is equal to like let's say 6. Now the simple arithmetic operations, right, that I was actually, the condition states that the condition states that if y over x, right, y over x, and you multiply it by same x, that's the okay, should give you back y, right? So yeah, it should give you back y. And now think about this. This works for mostly this works for mostly whole numbers, should work for divisions, divisions that brings up remainders, right? But fails have issues with that. So most times, for example, if we put 6 as y, if 6 is y, right, and x is 2, if you divide it and you multiply it again by 2, you would go back to 6. Of course, every even the kid knows this, right? 6 divided by 2 is 3, right? And 3 times 2 will give you 6 back. So this is like the condition, should I say, for fails. Like I said something, right? I said for like fails to work accurately, right? Your division operation must satisfy this condition. Sorry, let's close this. Your division operation must satisfy this condition I just quoted. This is very basic, and I think everybody understands it. But if you don't understand, you could actually use the chat. So but there's an issue, right? If we want to do 10 over 3, if we do 10 over 3, use your calculator, you would see that it gives you something like this, 3.33333, something that goes on and on and on and on. Like I forgot what we call this in maths, right? The if you use that stuff they teach you in primary school, where you divide it out a calculator and you keep doing it and you keep doing it, it doesn't really, like, you don't finally get to, it doesn't end, it just keeps, the tree just keeps recursing, right? So, but now it doesn't satisfy our equation above, right? Because when you do it, you don't get a whole number. So when you do this in Cairo, you get a string of weird numbers. So this is the result you will get if you try this in Cairo using fields. And let me prove this to you, right? Let's write a simple stuff that should do that. So then x is equals to, let's make x equals to 6, right? We don't need z, should we? Okay, okay, let's use it. Let's also use it. So let's make y is equals to 2, right? And we want our z to be equal to x over y, and then we want to just echo z. That's in Cairo Playground, we use the serializer. The serialized word also is from the library helpers. You can actually use it just like how you print stuff, right? So if you run this, you would get 3, right? This is the result we're actually supposed to get. But now let's try 10 divided by 3. That's supposed to give us 3.333 in a CNA environment. But then when we do this in felt, you can see the results, some string of weird looking numbers. Now, why this happens now goes back to what I said earlier about felts with my medium. Yeah, what I said about felts, right? This whole stuff where all computations are done modulo P. So the to solve this issue now, there's a library that has been provided by the team at StarkNet. I think it's also contained in math.cairo called unsigned divrem. So when we actually want to do calculations, like divisive calculations in Cairo, it's actually safer to use this helper function from the StarkNet team than to probably do the division, like do a row division, because if you do that, you would actually get very weird results that you were probably not expecting. So that's one important thing I also, let's check for that helper library, right? Let's go to maths.cairo and
Doesn't I have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't that really large number, which represents a field element, actually represent the perfect answer, the most accurate representation of, I think it was like 10 divided by 3 or something? And so, because if you multiply by 3 again, you get 3.
Yeah, if you multiply this by 3, right? Yeah, you definitely get this. Definitely, let's say you are building an application, right, that a user was supposed to use, right? If you output this as your results to the human mind, it's not actually should I call it readable, right? It's not actually the expected answer we were actually looking for. I don't know if you get that.
Yeah, it's not a human readable number.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a readable number. So, but to the CPU, it actually makes sense, but to the human mind, it's not the expected output, and that's the reason why you'd probably use the library. I'm looking for that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the unsigned, unsigned different. Yeah, so this is the helper function, right? You probably use this rather than probably do a row division to avoid errors that could actually lead to exploits. So so yeah, that's one important stuff I needed us to note about fails, right? Then the next thing I need us to note about fails, right, is U in 256. So U in 256 is actually U in 256 actually exists in Cairo, right? So if you are familiar with Solidity, you definitely have heard of U in 256. So like I explained earlier, it's an unsigned integer which has a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 2 raised to 256 minus 1. So unlike Cairo, which has 252 bits and 31 bytes, Uint 256 has 256 bits, and it's a 32-byte number. So Uint 256 definitely, especially the safety in 256, allows for more complex arithmetical operations. But now the issue is, I think this is still like an argument. I think there's been a whole lot of stuff talked about it in the forum. So due to StarkNet's strong relationship with EVM rights, there arose a need for interoperability because it's actually very necessary. Like I said earlier, a good layer 2 should always be very much interoperable with the base chain. So due to interoperability rights, the need for Uint 256 arise, and thus we can actually create it using a struct comprising of two fields. So just like a Uint 256 comprises of 256 bits, divide that into that, and we could get a low and a high value, both of 128 bits. Now, both the low and the high value can be represented as fields since they fit into the 252 bits, but they can also be represented as a Uint 256 when combined together in a struct, just like I believe we know what a struct is, right? Definitely, I think most persons here probably have prior experience, but just to explain, right, the struct allows us to create complex data types, right, with different properties. So you could actually create, for example, in Solidity, you could actually create a struct that has a string, a bool, and a whole lot of other members, right? So I'm sorry, I'll be comparing Cairo a lot with Solidity because I was previously Solidity dev. I'm still Solidity dev, right? And I feel like most persons come into StarkNet from Solidity rather than, let's say, a Rust background. So yeah, so like I said, because of EVM interoperability, Uint 256 became a thing that's needed. And just to show you like how it's structured, I think there's, if we go into the Uint 256.Cairo, right, you would see this struct, the Uint 256, we use that helper function a lot to create a Uint 256 variable, right? So it comprises of a low value, which is represented as a field, and a high value, which is represented as a field, both of 128 bits. So that's how Uint 256 is like achieved on Cairo. So I also have a simple Cairo contract example here. I don't expect us to understand this, but it's just like for you to get a view of how let's say Cairo contract looks like. So can we see this, or should I, let me try going into a slideshow. So yeah, so this is a very simple Cairo contract example, and we start by that's called the direct. Okay, yeah, so we start by specifying the language directive, right? Just like we do Pragma, Solidity, specify the version, blah, blah, blah. We also use the percentage lang StarkNet, and yeah, that's what specifies that we actually write in the StarkNet contract. If this is not in, then the VM will probably interpret it as a program rather than a contract. So, and you are actually running into errors because programs don't run in VM. So here are some ways. Here is a typical example of how you would import a helper library, right? So in here we imported the assert non-negative from the math library. Then we also imported the hash built-in from the Cairo built-ins library. I would explain what the hash built-in is later. So I think that would have to be in the next class because basically, okay, let me just give an idea of what it does. So the hash built-in is, I'm seeing a lot of chats and I'm usually not comfortable when I see chats. I feel like people are confused and the whole, okay, sure. Yeah, so let's just go back into the full screen, right? Yeah, so as I was saying, so the hash built-in basically enables us compute Pedersen hashes, right? So I think I don't know if I don't think Poseidon hashing is available on Cairo yet, but Pedersen is like the native built-in hash. So I'm using the hash build. The hash built-in is an implicit argument. Next week we're going to be looking at what an implicit argument is in details. But the hash built-in enables us compute Pedersen hashes, and I would explain why. I think this was one of the things that confused me initially, why these whole implicit arguments are usually passed in every function. So over we also have a storage variable, right? This is what a storage variable looks like. We have a balanced storage variable. And one thing you should note is, okay, we're going to dive deep into storage later, so let's reserve that for later. Then we also have an external function, and you'll be wondering what all these external storage variables, what they are. So these are called decorators, and I don't think I actually forgot to include decorators in this slide, but we'll probably still explain it. I think I've also written something on decorators, right? So we'll probably still go over that. And then lastly, we have a view function. So I would also explain what an external function and a view function is, but I know you should understand. I probably think we would understand that if basically you're coming from a relative background. And yeah, so let's start with constructors, right? Constructors are like are very popular and very common. So I think every single person in this course should have encountered the whole constructor thing, right? So the constructor in Cairo is just similar to what we do with Solidity and every other object programming language. We use it to initialize state variables during contract deployment. It is really declared using the @constructor decorator. So I've mentioned decorator a lot, and I'm actually getting very uncomfortable. So I think we should actually look at what decorators are. We should actually look at what decorators are. So let's see, install on storage. So basically what decorators are, right? So unlike Solidity, right, where you have key difference between most of all these implementations. For example, function executions can be described using the external keyword, using the internal keyword, using the view keyword, and a whole lot of them. But in Cairo here, all function executions are specified by the func keyword, and this can be very confusing because you use the func keyword for literally everything from functions, external functions, view functions, storage variables, constructors, events, and a whole lot of them. We actually use the func keyword for almost everything. So but this actually makes functions hardly distinguishable. So to solve this issue, Cairo uses what we call decorators to differentiate these functions. So basically all decorators begin with an @. So once you see this @ symbol, right, we'll use to @ people on Twitter, so mention people on Twitter. Once you see this symbol @, you know you are actually encountering a decorator. So here are the most common decorators you definitely encounter in Cairo. So we have the @storageVar decorator. This is usually used for specifying state variables. We have the @constructor decorator. This is actually used for constructors. We have the @external. This is used for specifying external functions. We have the @view decorator. This is usually used for specifying view functions. We'll explain what external functions and view functions are later. We have the @event decorator, which is used for specifying events, and a very much interesting one, the @L1 handler. So this is actually used for specifying functions that processes messages sent from an L1 contract in the messaging bridge. So basically what the messaging bridge is in Cairo is like StarkNet, like providing a means for developers to easily build stuff that, please guys mute your mics, to build stuff that can actually interact with the the base chain, right? So using the L1 handler, any function that that has the at L1 handler decorator, StarkNet usually interprets that function as a function that processes certain messages sent from your L1 contract. So we'll dive deeper into this in I think week 6. In week 6 we'll be looking at building our own custom messaging bridge. So things will definitely get more interesting as we go forward. So we also have storage variables, right? So a storage variable, let's start with explaining what a contract storage is, right? So StarkNet, like I said earlier, StarkNet virtual machine has system storage space that you could actually alter. You could change information contained in it. You could write, you could read, you could alter data. So basically, these storages they are mapped with 251 slots initialized to 0 by default. So if you create a storage variable and you read from it, the default value is usually 0. So you should also note, which we've stated over and over and over again, that contract storage is only available to StarkNet contracts. You don't have this in programs. You don't have this in Cairo programs. You only have this available in StarkNet contracts. So if you're writing stuff on the playground, and there's also a StarkNet playground too. I forgot to send the link to, but on the Cairo playground, you can't do stuff with storage variables. But let's find, I think there's the StarkNet playground. Let me find that. Not this. Yeah, so there's a StarkNet playground actually, and let me just copy the link and paste it. So you could actually play around, build contracts, compile, deploy using the playground. Let me send the link to the chat. Okay. So yeah, so there's the link to the StarkNet playground. Now on that you can actually do stuff using a storage variable, because you can write StarkNet contracts and deploy them to the VM. So basically a storage variable looks like this, right? We start by specifying them using the @storage variable decorator. I just explained what a decorator is, right? So we start by specifying the @storage variable decorator. Then we also write the func keyword. Like I said, all stuffs, all function executions, all implementations start with the function keyword, the func keyword, right? So our storage variable name is the token counter, and it is a map to like an ID of fields. Now, this is the part I wanted to explain. So if you come from a Solidity background, you should be used to having, let's say, storage data, creating storage data types, like probably can create a string name and other stuffs. Then you can also create what we call a mapping, right, in Solidity. But Cairo makes this better. I prefer the way it is on Cairo, right? So you can actually create complex mappings on Cairo. All right, someone's mic is unmuted. I don't know if the person wants to ask a question. So, but you can actually create complex mappings in Cairo using just the storage variable. So basically, just like you have, we have a token counter, right, which has, there's no key here, but automatically each time you call the token counter, right, without any supplying any key, you automatically get the ID as the return value. So we'll be doing some more complicated stuff with storage variables as we go forward. So then you can, like I said, you can write to a storage variable and you can read from it. These storage variables are mutable. The contract storage is mutable, right? So like I said, since storage variables can be altered, we can read and write to it. So functions that write to a state variable must be specified with the @external decorator. So basically, if you are going to change the state on the blockchain, automatically has to be an external function. A view function does not have the capacity, it's not like allowed to change the contract state. So here's an example of a Cairo function that updates a storage variable, right? We start with the external keyword, and we specify the function name, which is the update ID. Here are the implicit arguments supplied to it, and it is okay. This is actually the old Cairo syntax. So if you're around for a long time, I think this was 0.9, but with 1.0 we no longer write this column. I actually missed this. This was supposed to be an open bracket and a closed bracket, but just ignore that. What I want you to focus on, right, is how you can actually update the these like right to a storage variable. So you start with writing the storage variable you want to update, right? Dot write, and then you specify the number you want to update it with. And
your mic is
actually I
messed up.
understand if this is actually a little difficult to understand saying it in words, but we'll practicalize all this soon. So yes, then you might ask,
Hey, Darlington.
this is an important something I want everyone to know, right? The reason why all these
Hey, Darlington.
arguments are usually okay in some situations. But can you hear me better now? Can you guys hear me?
We
No.
can hear you now, but everything you said in the last 2 to 3 minutes, like it was like cracking or something. I don't know if you probably the network issue or something.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my network is pretty messed up today, and I still cannot find the solution. I'll probably try to fix it up after the class. I'm so sorry about that. But my voice is clearer now, right?
Yeah, it's clear right now. There's a question in the chat. You can just like probably attend to that. But then what you said in the last 2 minutes, it was cracking, so we didn't actually like get that.
All right. Okay, let's start with what I said in the last 2 minutes, right? So I was talking about how you write to a storage variable, and I said that a function that alters the state, the contract state, right? The blockchain state must be must be specified with the external decorator, right? So I said that we start by specifying the fun keyword, because is what we actually use for like creating functions and literally everything in Cairo, right? Then we specify the function name, and then I said this is actually the old Cairo syntax, the 0.9. I just had to screenshot the code. In the new version, we're supposed to replace this column with an open bracelet and the end with a closed bracelet. But just ignore that. That's just the only major change, and also adding a semicolon at the end of every statement. So like I said, what I want us to focus on is how you update the storage variable, right? That's using the id.write, then you pass in the number, right? So the ID is like the name of the storage variable we want to represent. So we just specify it, then .write, and we pass in the number. And I said, if you don't understand it, you don't have to worry. Would be you would probably understand better when we are practicalizing this, which would actually be doing. We have a long way to go, and we need to do a whole lot of stuff today. So now over to reading from a storage variable, right? Over to reading from a storage variable. So we said something about functions that write to a storage variable must be specified with the external functions. Functions that read from a state variable should be specified with the view decorator. So here, here's an example of a Cairo function that reads from a storage variable. So I also want you to take note of here for now. And I said that just like the last one we did dot write here we are doing dot read. So the function name dot read. And basically, if the function had a key, right, we would have to pass in the key in order to get the value. So let's just scale faster. This is 559, and we haven't even gone into the practical aspect, right, yet. So then we have the external functions, right? So we've been stating this a whole lot of times. So, but we said there are two major types of functions in Cairo. We have the external functions, we have the view functions. So the external functions are those functions that changes or alters the state of the blockchain. So these functions are usually specified using the external decorator, and they usually look like this. So as you can see, this function changes the state of the blockchain. This approve here is a storage variable, and although this you probably don't understand this since we are not changing it directly, but we actually using an Open Zeppelin library here. But I just want you to understand that this changes the state of the blockchain, and so that's why it's an external function. Then we have a view function also. So view functions are read-only functions, and they either change or alter the state of the blockchain, right? So these functions should be specified using the @view decorator, and they usually look like this is wrong. This is not what the view function looks like. I need to correct this later. Sorry about that. I think I actually mixed up the image. But we'll probably let's just leave that for the practical. I'll fix that later for people who would want to go through the PDFs. I actually mixed up the images. So now over to events, right? So events are like if you come from a Solidity background, or basically I think every contract language has events, right? Because events are very necessary. So they allow us log changes of state to the blockchain in a specific format that allows the VM to easily retrieve and filter them. So basically, if you work with Solidity, right, you understand how important events can be, right? Because you can actually emit certain events which your front-end client application can listen to. An event have a whole lot of advantages. You can actually even use them as a storage, as a means of storage, cheap storage, right? Just like Empiric does with the whole historical data stuffs. So events are actually super important in Cairo, but then I think they're just a little drawback. Currently, in Cairo, we don't have indexed events like we do with Solidity. So if you've written Solidity, you can actually write events and specify some parameters that should be indexed. By indexed, I mean these parameters can actually be used for searching of these events. Does someone have a question? I can hear someone's mic on.
It wasn't my mic, but I do have a quick question. Is there no analog for an internal decorator, as in one that changes state but can be called within the contract? I'm not sure if you're talking, but I can't hear you.
But hello guys.
Hey man, what's up? We can't actually hear you. Can you?
Hey guys, I think that Darlington is having some network issues. So please let's just give him a few moments. And also, if you have any questions, you can drop them on the group and also on Telegram so that people can attend to them. But let's just give him a few minutes. Network issues.
He's back on so.
Hello, Darlington.
Yeah, I'm very sorry about that, guys. My network is really super messed up, honestly. I just tried to change my location and I hope things get better from here. So but I am clearer now, right? Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you.
you had one question like that is still unanswered. Did you get the question?
Which question is that?
Hey, please can you ask your question again? I think it's from
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Did you hear my question the first time? Is there no analog for an internal decorator?
No. On with Cairo, right, on StarkNet, we just have two functions. We have the external functions and the view functions. There are no internal functions, and there are no internal functions, and there are no what's the first? There are no private functions. So we just have every function is visible. We just have external functions, just a single type of function, and the view functions. So there are no private functions and there are no internal functions. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay. Can you specify the address? Like, could you, similar to like solidity modifiers, could you specify that this contract address must be the caller of the function, which kind of achieves the same thing?
Okay, like you were saying, like, is it like the message dot sender?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, you can actually do that. You do that using there's a helper library called get caller address. So it does same stuff as the message dot sender. So if you're looking to get the address of the person probably calling or executing the transaction, you can do that using the library. And I think we'll do that to definitely before we leave. So learn how to use some of those helper functions. The get caller address, the get contract address. You can also get a contract address, just like you do it address this on Solidity. You can actually do similar stuff on StarkNet too.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, so and I think God's power already answered the other question. I think I skipped it. So the felt with the asterisk is called a pointer, right? And it points to like a specific memory address or a specific memory value. So let's just go forward. Like I said, we are running out of time. So I was talking about events, right? And I said events allow a contract to log a change of state to the blockchain. And I talked about how important events can be. I think like I said, in the case of Empiric, you can actually use events as a means of cheap storage, like Empiric does, right? They use it as a means to like store historical data, and you could actually query their historical data using the events they emit when each time a publisher publishes a price feed. So so events have a lot of importance. Like I said, they are very good when it comes to communication with your front-end clients, right? You can actually emit certain events which you get in your front-end client. Just like we know, external functions cannot particularly return values which you can actually use from the front end, right? But then you can actually emit certain events like we do with events, right? Those certain events actually communicates different informations that would be very much helpful to like the front end. So we also have structs too in Cairo. So the concept of structs in Cairo is very much similar to what we know from Solidity, right? So in general, structs allow you to create very complex data types, more complex data types with multiple properties. So, but unlike Solidity, right, there's this special attribute and special feature structs in Cairo has, and that's the size attribute. We'll probably learn more on this when we look at recursions in week 4. So the size attribute is like the sum of the sizes of its members. So a struct in Cairo looks like this, right? We start with the struct keyword. I think the struct is like one of those few implementations that doesn't start with the phone keyword. So you just start with struct keyword and you specify the name of the struct and you pass in your arguments. So everything is either of type felt or you're in 256. So you pass in your arguments just like it is done here too. So and I think it's time for building. So we can't actually live here without building stuff, right? We need to build something. And yeah, so it's build time. So I don't know how many persons succeeded with installing Protostar. Someone said he had issues. I can't remember at the beginning of the call. So how many persons succeeded with installing Protostar? How are we going to do that? I don't want it to be noisy though, but you could just let us know in the chats. I succeeded, I did not, just I did not, please. Let's do that in the next like a minute or two. So I'll know if we are on the same page. If it wasn't Protostar, but you tried out Nile or Hard Hats, can you just indicate in the chats? Wow, so nobody did the assignment. Protostar, okay, KP did Protostar. Only KP. Okay, Manakin said, yeah, sure. I was able to install, I have that installed. Okay, I think that's great, Protostar. Okay, since we have a lot of persons who installed Protostar, I think that's great. I don't need to run through that again. So I already have Protostar installed, right? So we are just go. Well, Manakin, you said you're mostly wondering. Okay, I was able to install mine. That's great. Okay, let's just, this is my terminal, right? And we are just going to go ahead and create a new Protostar working directory, right? And we are going to build and deploy our first contract. So to get started, which I'm sure a lot of us has done, you need to do the Protostar init, right? And okay, do you want to know? Let's do that. So the project directory name, let's just call that Cairo tree. Cairo tree. Sorry, it's Cairo 2 actually. There's week 2. And yeah, so let's just move into Cairo 2. Let's open that in our code editor. So it's telling me I can hide this. This is actually, this is like, okay, Paul, do you know if I can hide this on my screen? I think it's actually coming into my stuff and I don't just like it.
Which one? Which one are you talking about?
I mean, this stuff here, like, is there able to remove?
Not now, unless your screen.
All right, no problem then. I don't even like, okay, let's make this like this. So I think this will be better. So when you create a Protostar directory, right, you initialize a new Protostar project. So I love Protostar so much, and there are other alternatives. There are definitely alternatives. There's Nile from Open Zeppelin. There's Hard Hats. There's Hard Hats also, which was developed by the wonderful team at Structs Labs. It's like a plugin. You can actually use it if you love JavaScript so much. Enables you, but my and tests are very much important when you're writing smart contracts. As a smart contract developer, writing tests should actually be something you do a lot. So okay, Manakin said, okay, how to deploy a contract to another contract using Protostar. How to deploy a contract from another contract using Protostar. I've not done this, but I think last time I spoke with Martins from Open Zeppelin, I saw someone ask a question, right, as regards to this. I think you can do this with a UDC universal deploy. I'm not sure. Manakin, please, for the first question, just send it to me on Telegram and I'll probably ask around. I haven't tried that before, so I'm not so sure how, if you can deploy a contract on other contracts using Protostar. I am not so sure. So, but the second question, how can you deploy contracts without paying? How you can deploy contracts without paying gas, even on testnet? For now, StarkNet is still, I think I would say StarkNet is still in alpha phase, right? It's still in development phase, and for the past few months since I've been on board, right, we've been doing a whole lot of deployments without paying gas fees, and I think they are currently working on a better gas fee model, and if I get an update on that, I'll definitely let you know. But I think for now you can actually, I don't know, I think Protostar, I'm not sure, but I think Protostar somehow does the deployments. probably pays for the gas, because when you carry out transactions on testnet, right, you try interacting with the block explorer, you get to pay gases to carry out external calls. So I think the definitely before Cairo 1.0, definitely before the Genesis, will definitely get a good gas fee model. And I think there's an information on this on StarkNet's official website. I'm not sure, I'll still ask around, but for now you can make deployments without actually paying for gas. And I think that wraps it up. But for number one, please just send it to me on Telegram, because I'm actually curious about that. I've not tried it, and I would actually love to know how that is done. So I would probably ask around, try it out, and I'll get back to you. Then going back to what I was saying, right? So like I said, I love Roadstar so much. It combines the best qualities from Truffle and Foundry. And Hadat is actually a good development environment. I love Hadat too. So but Protostar just nails it for me, right? You get to write tests in Cairo, do fun stuff, and you bring stuff together so much. Yeah. So when you create a Protostar directory, right, you have the lib folder. This is where all your libraries go into, your external libraries. Think of it like probably when you install stuff on Hadat using npm, your npm module package, something like that. That's where all your library folders go into. So we also have this source folder, right? This contains a default contract, and because of time, we'll not be writing a contract from scratch like I planned. This is already 6:16, so we'll just explain this contract and yes, StarkNet Africa. Paul, you have a question?
Yeah.
See you raised your hand.
Yeah, I want to let you know that your network is still bad, a bit like if you can just adjust a bit to know if it will get better.
Okay, keep it said we've lost this is and stuffs are not getting so better yet. Try from this angle. So guys, I'm so sorry, honestly. This was not actually planned. Network didn't really give me so much issues. So I didn't know it would be so much issues starting out the call. So let's just proceed, right? So I was saying when you install when you initialize a new Protostar directory, right, working directory, it provides you with 3 major folders. We have a lib folder. The lib folder is where all your libraries go into, all your install stuffs you install to use in your project directory. Yeah. I'm actually using a hotspot as my network connection. That's true. I'm actually maybe I'll get in my file soon. So yeah, guys. Source folder. So the source folder is where all your contract files go into. The source folder, all your contract files go into. And we have the test folders, right? The test folders is best going to. So I don't know if it's with okay. And the serious so the tests I don't know what week, I can't remember, but there's a certain week where we get to learn to write tests, right? Because it's actually very important. So the test, and then there's the protostar.toml, that's your configuration file. Think of hadat.config, truffle.config, and the rest. So this is where your configuration files go into. You can actually do fun stuffs here. You can actually specify your contracts, the link to your contracts, which is actually necessary to do if you're going to build your files, and a whole lot of other fun stuffs. So let's go into explaining our Cairo contract, right? So this this is,
Hey man, also I don't think
Cairo Contract.
okay.
Right, this is the Cairo Contract.
So you're having network issue.
Oh damn. I don't think I think your network is still like very bad. Maybe you can just adjust to where you were before. Okay. So sorry guys. I mean I just feel probably his network is quite bad. And just like the other person suggested, probably he's using hotspot to do this. That's why it's kind of bad. But let's just wait a few minutes to know if we will get back here. Let's just wait like 2 minutes or something. So how has the class been going so far? I mean, for everyone.
Great, yeah, especially yeah, like around the theory of various aspects of the language, events. We haven't gotten to hints yet, but other stuff like that.
Yeah, I get that. Yes, I just hope that is better now. He's actually back on, so let me make him host again to know. I just hope he's better now. Hey man, what's up?
Yeah, I'm good actually.
Yeah, but your
Insincere.
network is not good. Yeah.
Guy, I actually just tried to new position again. That I didn't know it would be this bad, but let's still move on. Still
Yeah.
trying to keep up.
So what about like what this guy suggested? Probably because she is in hotspot. Is it something you could fix now? Probably later.
Yeah, it would have to be
Maybe
later. It would have to be later because I don't have access to my Wi-Fi currently. So my hotspot is like the only option currently.
yeah, maybe someone else should share screen. If someone else has this contract pulled up and then you just stream audio, I think the issue is that you're trying to stream both video and audio. I guess it's harder because it's not a
Yeah,
it's not
I
a
actually
PowerPoint.
think so too. Like, yeah, but I don't think anyone has access to this right now. So I don't think anyone has access to this right now. So we would have to like we'll have
Yeah,
to like
let's just continue.
just yeah, sure. Okay, so let's just run through this, right? So we start by specifying our language directive, and that's the percentage lang StarkNet. So like I said earlier, this is actually very important. You must actually specify, this is actually what specifies that you're actually writing a StarkNet contract, right? And without this, you probably run into errors when you run protostar build, when you try compiling. Then I also said something about imports, right? So over here we get to import these two libraries, right? And we get to use them later in a contract. So just to answer Manakin's question, we are going to import the get caller address and probably the get contract address, not because they fit into the whole contract idea, but just for explanations, right? So from starkway.cairo.com, is it starkway? I think not starknet. This is supposed to be like starknet.com get caller address. So let's also import the get contract address too. So we're going to use both, right? So we're going to play around and try to do phone stuff. So yeah, then let's also, is there any stuff I would like us to play around it? Okay, no, let's not do that. Then we have the storage variable, right? And the storage variable returns the balance of the balance that, so we're going to, let's make this fun, right? This is just a simple storage variable, right? How about we make it like a mapping where we get the user's balance. So let's say we have an account, right? An account address, which is also going to be a felt data type. And each time we call the balance function, we want to get like the balance of a particular account. So that's the first fun stuff we're going to do, right? And that's a good place to actually use the get caller address. So we have the increase balance function, right? And we passing in basically, I don't know, I tried explaining something about the implicit arguments and why we pass this into every function, but saying something right, I said when I started, right, so it was actually very big confusion. I would always pass this, all this was a whole lot of jargon then into every function call, both external functions and view functions, right? That's because both of them mutate the mutates the StarkNet contracts storage, right? So this is called pointer, the pedestrian pointer, and the range check pointer, pretty pedestrian fit, and a whole lot of elements, right? So this something, right? Its arguments don't exist. You run into errors when that's the system call, and for that you need a system call pointer, and then the range check points and stuffs. Am I lost once again? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, now we
okay.
can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I actually thought I was actually lost. So let's, I want us to do something fun, right? So before all this, let's get the caller, the person making the calls. Let me see the charts. Could you repeat the implicit arguments? Okay, I said that the implicit arguments are passed in because they're actually necessary for the storage, for manipulation of Cairo storage. So this tree I made a whole lot of explanations on this tree. We missed the explanation because of the network. Okay, so I said the system call pointer is actually an implicit argument that is very necessary if you are going to making system calls, right? For example, we are going to be making system calls to the get caller address and to get the contract address. So these are system calls, right? And also making calls like write and reads, write and read calls are also system calls, right? And if you don't have this implicit argument there, you run into errors. So pedestrian pointer is usually used in hashing. If you understand how the EVM works, right, you know that when you try to make changes to storage, there are some stuff that has to do with hashing and a whole lot of that stuff. So we actually hash stuffs using pedestrian hash, and to do that, you actually need the pedestrian pointer, and the range check pointer is usually used for number comparisons and are also very important if you are going to be altering the storage variable. You probably understand more on implicit. So but let's not get into that, right? So I just want to be sure because now I'm so unsure of if I don't know when I am actually lost. So guys, can you still hear me?
Yeah, but it's cracking a bit, like it's still cracking a bit.
Okay, am I lost now? Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, just like Kefi said, it's not smooth. Like for them, I can
My
hear you.
God.
It's not
So
smooth.
I'll try to resolve this. So over here now we are trying to actually use. Yeah, sure. So like I said, we are going to be using the get caller address code, just like use message or sender. Think of it like the sorry. Think of it like the message or sender using Solidity. Get a system call to like get the caller address of whosoever is going to call the increase balance function, right? I want to store it in like the caller. We want to store it in this temporary variable, that's the caller variable. And I want us to do something for, like I said, if you remember from earlier, we edited the storage variable, right? We want, instead of querying just the balance, we want to query the balance for every account. So if you're going to be increasing the balance of an account, right? Over here, the first thing we need to do is we want to read the result of the balance. If you want to increase the balance, right, it's common sense that you want to get the previous balance before adding the new balance. So like I said, now we have a key. Just think of it like the way you do mapping, right? When you have a key, you can also have multiple keys, right? But you can only have a single value at every point in time. So when you have multiple keys, think of it like the way you do mappings in Solidity. So over here, to read the balance, we want to read the balance for this caller. So we want to read the balance for a particular account, and that's the caller, the person who will be calling our function, right? And we want to increase the balance. So to increase the balance, we want to get the previous balance and add the amount that will be imputed, the new amounts that will be imputed, and that will be our new balance, right? So yeah, so that will be the new balance that will be writing. So this is going to be an issue. Let's remove this, right? Let's not just remove it, let's make it the new balance, because let's make it a new balance. I don't know if you guys know why I did that, but this was actually in race plus amounts, but I don't like it. It's not when it comes to readability, I see that so much people and doing stuff like this, right? Oh shit, I'm doing rubbish. This is not supposed to be being returned, right? This is supposed to be in the balance, right? So basically what we do here now is when you want to write the storage variable too, right, you need to specify the account you're writing. So that's the key comes first. Then next, the value that we are correcting, and that's the new balance. We separate both using a comma. So if we have multiple keys, for example, account, maybe we have a name, right? If we want to write, we would have to specify the caller, then the name next. That's the two keys before the value. So I hope we actually got that. If you don't still get that, I believe after the class, you could actually still go through that the article I wrote on storage to help you understand some of these stuff better. So I think with this we should be able to go. So to summarize what we did here, right? We get our caller address. And okay, I didn't explain this, right? This is called this is how we authenticate messages, right? So we want to check that, we want to ensure that the amount that is supplied is not a negative amount. And this assert non-negative is a helper function too we get from the math library. So these helper functions make our life so easier, because if we're going to do this using normal Cairo, you can't just do it with what you're thinking, probably check whether it is less than 0 and stuff. You can't just do that with fields, right? So these are the helpers. So basically what we want to do is we want to ensure that the image, the amount passed in is not a negative amount. But if it's a negative amount, right, we specify an error message that says amount must be positive. We got this amount, right? So the chart is the main function usually just used for writing tests or scripts in Cairo. Is the main function usually just used for writing tests. I'm trying to get what you mean by main. Can you just submit your mic and say question? Or do you mean by the main.cairo? This is just a name. You can actually replace this name. Is that your question? Look, Manakim, can you hear me? Okay, I don't mean the file name. Okay, I mean the function. Okay, yeah,
I mean the main function, not in this. I mean generally.
Okay, I think when writing Cairo programs, right, the main function is like in necessity is what like you actually need it to write in functions in Cairo programs. I think if you do stuff on the Cairo playground, it's been a while since I did that, but I think you actually need the main function to do that. And in test too, right? In test, you don't actually need, like, it's not when you're testing StarkNet contracts, you don't, it's not like something that's super necessary. Don't, it's not like a necessity, the main function. You can actually use any function name at all. Don't know if that answers the question. Okay.
Yeah,
Martin,
thanks.
does that answer your question? If I move on to KP's question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So KP says, I guess with attributes error, error message, it works like require exactly. That works like a requires statement. So yeah, let's just do that, right? So think of this like require solidity, right? So basically what it does is, if this amount, right, if the assert statement in it is not correct, right, it throws an error. So this error message, the function call is supposed to fail, but this error message is a better way of specifying what exactly happened. It gives better user experience, right? So just like require, the way you can add a comma and add your error message, that's what you do here. So then the next thing we do is we get the balance of the caller, the balance of the message or sender, the person querying the person's balance, right? We want to get the person's balance, right? We want to get the person's old balance, we want to increase the balance. So the new balance mix automatically means the old balance plus the deposit amount, right? So now the new balance is equal to like the old balance, which we got from like reading the storage variable for the caller, and then we add the new amount to it. And lastly, then we the accounts that we want to update, that's the caller, and the value we are updating for, that's the new balance. So next we move over to the view gets the balance of a particular account. So for the view function, here, since we now have a what they call it again, a key, right, we would have to pass in our key. The particular, we want to get the balance of a particular account, right? So we're going to say, let's just like normally, right, we're going to say, let's call up, what am I doing? Let's call up be equals to like the get caller address, right? Yeah, so when we get the caller address, we want to pass in, we want to query for that caller. So we're going to pass it into the read query, and then we're going to store it in the results variable and just return the results. So a new message. Can you pass in get caller address as arguments into balance the? Yeah, that's what I just did now. Exactly. That's just, you actually need it definitely, because the reason why you need it is that you have your storage variable has a key. So basically it's a mapping of key to value. You can't get a value without supplying the key you want to get the value for. So you have to supply the caller. Then lastly, we have the constructor, right? We talked about constructors. So the constructor basically, okay, the constructor basically is where we initialize an argument. So this is just like this here we are going to initial. Now this is the tricky part, right? We are initializing 0 for the normal balance, but this is not necessary, because when like I stated earlier, right, every storage variable is automatically initialized to 0, right? So this is not necessary. I think the Protestant team just did this, right, because they needed to just demonstrate how to use a constructor. So I don't believe you can pass functions as arguments in Cairo. The function will be executed. So said, I mean directly without saving it as a different variable. No, you can't do that. You can't do that, because that's like I said, that's it's like a function call, is a system call, right? So we have to, it returns like most of all those system calls, I think it returns a tuple or something. You just cannot pass it directly. You have to get it into a variable and then store you have to store it in a temporary variable and then pass that variable into the new argument. So I think that answers the question. Then over here, we cannot just alter the balance directly, right? Because we have a key value pair. So we are going to do something interesting here, right? We want to set the balance. We would set the balance, the contract balance. We would set the contract balance to 0, right? We're going to set the contract balance. And to do that, we're going to say let this contract be equal to like get contract address, right? Get contract address. And now we want to write the other than 0, let's write it to be 10,000, right? And I think that about solves it. Just to make things more fun, like right, let's write a single view function for getting the balance of the contract. So since we initialize the contract's balance to a certain value, let's write a view function to get that. Because if you call the get balance, it doesn't take in an argument. We don't pass in an argument, right? So rather than do that, that's a long process, right? Let's rather remove this. So let's rather accept an argument. An argument of fields and accounts, right? So we want to query for the account passed in. I don't know if you guys get this. If you don't get this, can you ask a question? So basically what we're just doing here is we pass in an argument, the account argument, and we want to query for this particular account passed in. So later on the block explorer, we're going to query for the contract account to see if it was actually set to this 10,000. I want to be sure everyone can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Let me be sure I'm not speaking to myself. Hello guys, am I still audible or have my network?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I think our contract is now ready, right? So it makes sense. It's tracking the respective balance. Yeah, that makes sense. That's true. So now next thing we're going to do is we're going to build our contracts, right? Let's go back to building our contracts. So we're not going to write tests today. Let's just forget about testing today. Then one thing you need to know is each time for you to build your contracts, right? For people to start to detect your contract, you need to add your contract to this protostar.contract. So let's assume we have a separate contract that's not the main contract has already been added. Whatever StarkNet, we're just going to call this StarkNet is equals to right, and we're going to pass in the paths that protostar needs to follow to get to the contract, right? We can say source / StarkNet.Cairo, right? So and yeah. And so when we run protostar build, right, it finds every single contract and it builds it. And it names it following the name you specify here. That's another thing to note. It names your build files following the, your build file is like your ABI file, right? So it names it following this name here. So there's about it. So now next thing we're going to do is we're going to now move on to the building, and then we're going to try deploying and interacting. So let me clear this. Let me clear my command line. To build a contract, right, you need to run the command protostar build. And we hope, okay, we have an error, right? So it says unpack bindings. Oh, right, that's true. So unpack binding is really used for function calls, since that returns its output, right? But over here, we are not going to, we don't need to unbind anything. So the whole bracket is not necessary, since we are not making any storage call, contract call, etc. So I'm going to save this and we're going to try building again, right? So now our project has been built successfully. Now over to the big part, and that's deploying a contract, right? So normally when you deploy a contract, you have to pass in protostars like a very good docs. I don't know, someone was complaining about a docs earlier, but I think protostars docs is like one of the best you can find in the ecosystem currently. Like everything is just it's just so good, right? So you have stuff like you can actually use CLI commands to deploy, right? And we are going to be using CLI commands today. There's a whole lot of stuffs. So using a custom signer class, there's a whole lot of, so you could actually go through this, right, and play around with most of those stuff. So you could actually specify your deployment information, just like you do with Hadat, right? You can actually do that in the config file. But for today, we are going to be doing that straight from the command line interface, right? So to deploy our contracts, we're going to run the deploy command, right? And the file we want to deploy should be in the build folder, and it should be called main.json. So let me confirm that, right? So first of all, we've added this as the main, and in the build file, you can see we have the main API.json and the main.json. So the main.json is what we are deploying, right? The main API, you can actually use that to make your front end interact like with your contracts, but we are not deploying that. We are deploying this, right? This is the binary, this is what we're deploying, not this. So yeah, so let's do that. So the next thing we need to do, right? We need to specify the network we'll be deploying to. Normally you would probably use testnet, but we're running out of time, and testnet has been very slow as at recently. There was this stuff about after the last airdrop that was done by what team, I can't remember, Aptos, right? So all these airdrop farmers started posting a whole lot of stuff on Twitter, right? And it brought a whole lot of persons going to test. I think test nets, the normal test nets became overflooded, and I don't think that has been fixed yet. It's still very slow. So these days a lot of developers has migrated to this testnet 2, right? You can actually use testnet 2 or just probably set, and to deploy, if you're going to be deploying a using a custom gateway, right, you need to, let's go back to the protostar docs. Let me explain this, right? So they have something on deploying using a custom gateway. I need to look for that. So normally you can actually specify stuff in your configuration file and use the words like testnet and mainnet, which has been configured already to work with protostar. But we are going to be using a custom gateway. Where do we find stuff on custom? Let's go to CLI reference, right? Gateway URL, because I want to be deploying to testnet 2, and testnet 2 is currently like not like officially supported by protostar. So if you want to deploy string, so we are going to start with that, right? Rather than network, you're going to be specifying a gateway URL, and that is supposed to be like a string. So this is the gateway URL for testnet 2. Then secondly, we need the chain ID. So we're going to be specifying our chain ID. Our chain ID is supposed to be sorry, where's that? Yeah, our chain ID is supposed to be like SN Gweli in like converted to field. But I don't have time to do those conversions. Let me see if I can get it somewhere. Okay, guys, please a minute. Yeah, so this is the gateway. Yeah, so the chain ID, let's get this. Let's just copy this. This is SN Gweli converted to field from strings, right? Let's go back to our terminal. Yeah, and for our chain ID, our custom chain ID, right, we need this. And is there any other stuff we need, right? We don't have inputs, do we? So our constructor has no inputs, which is it doesn't have any input, so we don't have a need for inputs, right? But how if we had an input, we would have to specify an input, right? And probably pass in whatever was supposed to be our input, but we have no input, so that's not necessary. I think this is enough, so we are going to try deploying. And yeah, so we deployed, and testnet 2 is so fast. So in few minutes, let's say a minute, we should have our contract deployed. And on testnet 2, okay, just a little check once again. I am still being heard, right? I've not been kicked off by my network, right? Yeah, Voyager supports testnet too. Let's open that too. Voyager does support testnet too. So to do that, I think it's on Voyager. Let's find it. What is that? Voyager. Voyager testnet 2, testnet 2, testnet 2. Okay, let me I think I have it somewhere, right? Voyager does, but I can't remember the area now. I'm more inclined. Okay, yeah, if you go to Voyager, I think you can actually change your network to testnet 2. It does support testnet 2. Come here and yeah, there's Goeli 2. There's Goeli 2. Yeah, it does support testnet 2. Just switch over to Goeli 2 and the URL is goeli2.voyager.online. So I hope that answers your question. So let's move over to our contract, right? So our contract has been deployed. So testnet 2 is so fast, and in case you are interested in using testnet 2, right, and you can actually follow this guide here. Let me just post the guide. So this is a guide from Agent, so you could actually follow this to set up testnet 2 and add it to your Agent network. So let me post this on the chats. This guy, where are you? Okay, yeah. So let me post. Yeah, so you can actually follow that guide in case you're interested in setting up testnet 2, because testnet 1 is so annoyingly slow these days. So yeah, so now we are going to move over to interacting with our contract, right? Let's do some fun stuff. So the first thing I want us to do is let's get the balance of our contract address. Let's see if it's truly 10,000, right? So we're going to come here and we're going to pass in our accounts and our account, which is this, right? Why Structs? I don't know, StarkNet is behaving funny today, but like you could actually see that our balance is 10,000, which was what was initialized in our constructor. So we can see our constructor works, right? So we are going to move over to testing, writing our contract. And to write to your contract, right, you need to connect to your wallets. Okay, right. So to write to I'm connected to testnet 2 here on Agents. So you could actually add it and try connecting to that. So let's connect to our wallet. Then we're going to try increasing our balance, right? So the balance, I don't know why this is not showing up, but we're going to pass in, let's pass in 50,000. I don't know why this is not showing up. Should we just use Voyager? I can't explain why that's not showing up. So let's approve this, right? And hopefully in a minute it's completed and we can go check our balance. So you can note here that our contract is the one that ends with 4976. So we are going to come to Agent here and we're going to copy this guy's wallet address because we're going to be checking his balance, and we are waiting for this contract to for the transaction to be accepted, right? It's still pending. All right, it is actually accepted. So let's go back to read contract and let's try querying the balance for that particular account, right? Let's try it. Let's query. Why is this slow? Okay, yeah, so as you can see, we get our balance, which is 50,000. So yeah, every stuff works as expected. So I don't know, do you guys need the code? Should I push it to GitHub, or should I push the codes to GitHub? Can someone answer me in the chat? Let me know. But that, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, let me just do that now. Probably let's do this right. Let's just add something. Say completed, right? Commits. And okay, I'll have to create a new repo, right? Let's
Darlington, there's a question on the chat for you.
yeah. I can, under the hood, StarkScan is converting the past inputs to fields, right? Yeah, exactly. So StarkScan, Voyager, they actually have means to convert this under the hood, right? So, basically, I think he works the most on hex. So as you can see, I passed in a hex address, right? My wallet address is in hex format, and he converted it to fields. But if you pass in strings, you get an error. Let's try that. If you pass in a string, you get an error. It's the conversion, the automatic conversion, I think, but you can actually change this decimal to hex, and you can actually change it to text. So these are all the representations, but you can't, let's say, want to query for an account or invalid type of account. Yeah, so that's it. So for accounts, StarkScan and every block explorer are expecting either a hex value or a felt value. I don't know if that answers your question, KP. So while KP okay, let me create a new report and move this guy there. This is my network safe, like okay, so let's just StarkNet Africa 2, and okay, just call this Cairo Class name. Okay, Cairo Class, and okay, did I miss something? Guy, how's my net long while now? Okay, guys, I would okay, yeah, it has shown up now. So let's not the readme. Let's just create a repository, and yeah, so let's just push this guy there. Let's Cairo to right, okay. To generate. Let's just start this guy. And let's push. Okay, guys. Yeah, I've pushed the code, so I'll just drop the link in the chat, and you could just access it from there later on. So what's the faucet for testnet 2? Well, there's an issue, right? Currently there's no faucet for testnet 2. Someone is working on it because that's group. Someone's working on the faucet routes. Currently there's no faucet. If you need testnet, I have quite a lot of them. Just send me a message on Telegram and I'll send you some testnet it. So and yeah, guys, so the codes are already available here. I think I shared the link on the chat already. So you could probably access it later and probably play around it and do whatever stuff you want to do. So let's go back to our codes, right? So I think that's about it, right? We deployed it onto the testnet. So we have an assignment in there, right? And what's the assignment supposed to be? So there's an assignment for week 2. Can I find that? Yeah. So there's a lot of resources that you can actually read up on. There's a limit to what we can cover in class, right? But you can actually read up more. There's a lot of resources we provide, right? You can actually check those resources out and do some amazing stuff. So the assignment says you should build a program that stores students' records. So this is a simple but very interesting project. So you should just try it out. There's a hint there. You can use a struct for students' details. So basically, just think of a simple contract where that has a storage variable admin address where you can store your admin address. Then you also have a storage variable students details. This one will map students address to their details, but it's just similar to what we did here, but this is a little tricky because I wanted to use a struct for the student details, right? So use a struct for your student details, and it should map account address to the struct. So you should also have a constructor that takes in an address argument and initializes it as the admin. And lastly, you should have an external function for storing the student's details. You should take in the name, age, and gender, and you should also have a few view function for getting the name. We're out of time. Can I post the link? to the task. I think this particular one, we didn't particularly make it available, but it's on the Notion, right? Blessing, please can you send the link? Yeah, thank you, Manakin. Yeah, so it's actually here. So here's the link to assignment. Thank you, Manakin. So I think that's about it. This 6:59 and we need to stick to time. So thank you so much, guys, for coming around. Let's just take our 5 minutes to answer questions, right? So if you have a question, you could just unmute your mic and probably ask. Let's do our best to clarify those questions, right?
All right, Darlington, thank you very much for that. Thank you so much for this session. So guys, we've come to the end of this class. But please, if you have any question, feel free to drop it in the Telegram group and we will attend to it. The links that were shared during the class, they will all be shared on the Telegram group also. Please, if you are not following us on Twitter, that's not nice of you. Please follow us on Twitter also. And have a great day. Please practice, and also the resources for the next class will be shared ahead of time. So you could read ahead so that you won't be lost in the next class. And also don't forget to go through week 1 also again, just to refresh your memory. So with that, thank you so much for joining the class. Have a lovely week.
Hi, wait, don't end the class just yet. I've got a quick question.
Okay, just ask a question, yeah.
Yeah, please ask a question.
Yeah, so I was reading through the StarkNet docs, and I also saw it on the PowerPoint that each struct has a size element or characteristic, and does that point to does that correspond to the number of elements in the struct? As in, if there is
Yeah.
a row and a column in a struct, then the size would be 2.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have a struct with, let's say, 2 details, let's say you have an account, right, of type fields, and probably you have a name or a gender of type fields to write. Let's say that's a tree, a struct of size 3, right? So the size attribute, I mentioned that earlier. So the size attributes is just equal to the number of elements contained in the structs. And it actually helps a lot, as you can actually recurse through structs too.
Sweet, thanks.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Darlington, for this class. I mean, it's actually like amazing. So next week, normal, like the same time by 5 p.m. West African time, we'll have the week 3, right? And we'll keep we'll send emails within the week, like to update you on the topics if you probably don't have time to go through the curriculum, right? So we came up with an idea of we're going to have this class for like 7 weeks. So we came up with an idea of doing a StarkNet like Cairo meetup at the end of the class, right? So it will hold like in Lagos. I mean, just an idea. So like, want to know if you guys will be able to like show up if we make it possible to have a meetup in Lagos like at the end of the class.
A meetup in what'd you say, in
Lagos.
oh
Yeah, I mean in Lagos, Nigeria, Africa, yeah. So yeah, if you are here, and just let us know what you think. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Oh,
So, yes, Manaki, we understand. So what will happen is that in the feedback form, we'll just put it there. So if you're going to be available, just let us know. But then definitely, Manaki, we understand. It's not going to be possible for you, so it's fine.
okay, yeah, no worries. We're going to put up a feedback form, right? So thank you all for joining today's class, today's section. And the recording of this call, I'm going to send it to the group tomorrow morning, right? It should be same like as the last time in a YouTube link. And then the link to the slide of this particular class we just did will be on the Telegram chat in the next few minutes or so. So I'll just get Darlington to send it over to me or something. Probably he'll be the one to post it in the next few minutes. So thank you all for joining today's class, and do have a good night's rest and depend on where you're staying. Yeah, see you all next week.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great class.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah, bye.